might, I don't know, have red circles. Go figure. Some of them might have fruit represented. Yeah, I know. Kind of makes you think a little bit, doesn't it? But these are the kind of investors that can change the dynamic of an entire area, not just a community, but an entire area. Because what do they know? We've got 3 developments right now that are going to be able to house, over, I think it's 1,500 people. There's going to be residential or retail opportunities there. There's going to be restaurants, bars, and crowds. And that, to a developer, is manna from heaven. Then you look at the average income of a college student these days. You look at the prosperity of the community of West Lafayette, and they are beating down our doors. This is sort of a street side view of the rise. This is actually what it's going to look like. Now, one of the things that we really we're not very pleased with is that to build these things, it takes a lot of money. And you go to any city in the country, and high rises all generally look the same. And we really tried to do the best that we could to drive the look of this to make it look more like a community high rise. And we met with a bit of resistance, but it's going to be a lot more brick. It's going to have a lot more brick involved with it, and not too much of that EPICS stuff. And they're going to soften up some of the edges. But one thing that we've known for a long time is that when we build something brand new, everybody looks at it, and they look at it from top to bottom. But as soon as they start getting comfortable with it, they never look up again. I mean, really, they never look up again. How many people do you see walking around Chicago doing this? They generally are looking in front, around, and from side to side. So with this, like I said, it was accepted last month. Construction is going to start pretty soon. This is going to add to the further confusion of State Street. So if you're walking, you'll probably get anywhere you need to go faster than if you're driving. But this is going to be one of the cornerstones of our community. The whole plan was to try and make sure that we stair-step our buildings up State Street Hill. And we're going to be pretty close to that. The next is the Innovation Place Apartments. Now we're starting to talk about what's going on the west side. Okay, this was our downtown area that we've just densified and put all of our high-rises there. Now we're talking about what's going on the west side, the Purdue side. We have felt oftentimes that if a student comes to Purdue University, comes to the city of West Lafayette, and they have a really incredible academic experience, and they meet somebody, fall in love and get married, they're kind of left out. They basically have to go find someplace off campus to live. There was some married student housing that was built around World War II, and it was basically to house soldiers that were returning from the war and their families. And there hadn't been a lot done to it, probably since the time that they were built. And these are going to go there to replace that. The whole point is to try and make sure that we have some family-oriented accommodations for graduate students, for married students with families, and sort of enhance that experience on the west end of the city. Further than that, we're actually going to go and try and even put some single-family residential there. The purpose behind that is very obvious. Obviously, we want to make this general area not only our downtown, but a place where people want to be and want to live. In the city of West Lafayette, we have over 34 miles of paved trails. We've got a ton of parks. We're the safest college community, well, we go between 1 and 2, safest college community in the country. And we got a lot of really cool things going for us. And when we're trying to talk about making sure a project has an understanding on the part of your stockholders, basically, those points have to be driven home. And again, project leadership. Then when you talk about what you're going to do in the future, one thing you better be sure about is you basically better be sure that you follow through with it. You know, because anybody can put a pretty picture up on a wall, but making sure that you have the viability and you have the financial resources and you have the partnerships to go ahead and follow through with these things is critically important. This investment is going to be about $75 million. Again, it's going to be $1 million plus to our coffers. And that money is going to be used to help expand not only that area, but also help us work with getting expansion into the research park, and then also help improve the quality of life for our students here as well. This is kind of sort of what we're hoping everything looks like when it's over and done with. As we build stuff, we're getting smarter and smarter. As we figure out what is wanted versus what is needed, we're getting a better understanding of how to better serve a population base, whether it be student population or your static residency. There is a standard that we have in West Lafayette that requires green space. In other words, if you pave over a football field, you got to some way make up for that lack of green space somewhere else in your development. And so this is what a lot of this is going to look like. When we did the State Street study, again, marketing and making sure that we market our project well, one of the things that we were made aware of was outdoor recreational opportunities. People like to eat outside. People like to be able to get from point A to point B without having to get a bus or a cab or drive a car. People like trails. People like to walk, run, take a skateboard, do a hoverboard, ride a bicycle, whatever, to where they want to go. People are intimidated by two-lane, especially seniors, and we've got a huge pile of people between the ages of 18 and 26, kind of a lull, and then we've got a huge pile of people between the ages of 50 on up. Our senior end get intimidated by high-density population and too much traffic on a road, oncoming cars. So what we do is as you can see on this example, we narrow it down and we provide green space to make it easier to get around. Tons of green space, big sidewalks, and every road that we touch is going to have some form of trail on there as well. So you will be able to get around without actually getting into the melee of traffic. The other thing that we're doing specifically in the constricted areas, because up State Street Hill where Harry's is and where the old bookstore was, it's only about 84 feet. And that's not a lot of room to put 2 lanes of traffic in, a bike lane, and then widen the sidewalks so people can dine outside. It's going to be tight, but right now that's our design plan. And there you see, right there. And that's what we're talking about, sort of expanding that. The bike path will be separated. There'll be a barriered bike path, and then lots of green space for the area coming up the hill. Harry's would be right about there. So, and that's the other thing. Believe it or not, one of the challenges that we have is bike racks too. I mean, we'll put bike racks. We'll have those large bike racks, and people pile their bikes in there, and that's not really what people want. They want to have more, so they can have just different sort of things to tie their bikes to. And this will be a campus view. Going from Grant Street all the way out to 231, that's a real challenge because that's a major bus arterial. And if we don't do something to dig out our little carve-outs for the buses, every time a bus stops, it blocks traffic all the way up. So that always has to be considered when we talk about one of our major arterials. And again, you can see the common theme, green. One thing that apparently happens is that if you're a human, you get completely bleached out. So, something else we've learned. And again, remember, we're marketing a project. We're trying to lead the project. We're trying to make sure that we have community buy-in. We're trying to make sure that all the demographics that usually coalesce, that get together when we're having something of this size and scope, we need to make sure that we include public art. And these are just examples of what we might have. This isn't necessarily what we'll have. Yeah, stack of books maybe. But one thing that we need to do, and this is unique to a college community, guess what our public art has to be? Sturdy, almost human-proof. Because allegedly, sometimes students and sometimes people that are older than students like to look at some of these things as physical challenges. And before I was elected mayor, I was a police officer over in Lafayette for 23 years. I retired as deputy chief of police. And when I left there, there was a lot of stuff that we were doing with public art, and we found out the hard way how people can hurt themselves on artwork. So whatever we put up, it's going to have to be durable. It's going to have to be something that we can clean, because God knows when you are a graduated senior, you want to leave your mark, right? And it's got to be safe. It's got to be safe. And the last thing that it needs to be is aesthetically appealing. But we will have a lot more public art because, again, that helps sort of dress up the area also. And more to come in 2017. As we said, we have had not just attention from around the state, but we've had attention from around the country and around the world for this project. With the Innovation District on the west end, most recently Rolls-Royce, and a lot of other things, positive things are happening. We believe very strongly that West Lafayette can be not just a place to go to school, but a destination place around the country. The quality of life here is really good and it's really improving. And I'm not doing this as an infomercial. But what we are trying to do is make opportunities so that when you guys graduate, instead of leaving, not just West Lafayette, but Indiana, you will have viable, excellent employment opportunities as soon as you walk off the stage before the ink even dries on your diploma. That's our goal. And again, that's the partnership between the city and the university. That's the partnership between my staff and the staff of Purdue. And that's one of the focal points of this State Street project. And again, that is the stuff that makes projects like this viable. That's the stuff that makes projects like this something that people can get behind and be enthusiastic about. So I have been told that I now have to hush and give you guys an opportunity to ask me some questions. Yes, ma'am.
The building called the Rise, where was that being put in?
There was an old church. If you go up State Street Hill, it's kind of not necessarily right across from XXX, just a little bit catty corner from that. It's going to go right up there.
So does nobody use that church right now?
Do what?
Does anybody use that church?
No, that church is going to be torn down. The elders of the church sold it to the development company because it's not a historically significant building, and they made a lot of money on it. So they went ahead and sold out, and that's going to be the first development to come up that State Street Hill.
And that's all while this construction on the road is going on.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess. It really is. Yes, ma'am.
So are you guys doing it in how big of sections are you going to be doing throughout?
The road?
Yeah, the road.
The first section is going to be the worst section. We are basically rolling up State Street from Grant Street all the way to the river, and that's going on right now. We think we can get that done in 90 days so that it's passable. Not completely done, but we can get the old stuff out, put the new stuff in. And that's kind of the weird thing. Roads, any engineers in here? God, that build roads? Well, a road isn't just dirt. I mean, you got to go underneath, you got to fix what's underneath it, you got to make it stable, you got to make sure it's waterproof, and you got to put all this proper draining and stuff in it. So it takes a long time to do. So we'll get the road bed set and get everything ready to roll, and then probably put a temporary surface on it and open it up because we're going to go further out to the west. So, yes, sir.
What are some of the responses that you see specifically for the businesses in Chauncey?
We have, I've got a guy that works for me. His name's Eric Carlson. He's our director of development. He has gone door to door, knocking on every business's door with an overview of the project, explaining to him the timeline, and letting him know that we are going to do everything we can to make sure people are aware that we're still open for business. That's been very positively received. The only time they get a little skeptical is when we tell them the timeline. I mean, nobody believes we're going to get this whole thing done in 3 years. But we have so many different ways to advertise the fact that we're still open. And we as a city have promised these folks that we're going to do everything within our power to do so. So they like that. Because actually, in all honesty, when you live in a university community, a business's success is generally word of mouth. I don't know that I've ever seen an advertisement for Harry's, but I know it's one of the top bars in the country. So we'll go ahead and just let them know that we're going to help them as best we can. Yes, ma'am.
What are some of the main strategies you're using to get this done in 3 years?
When we did this with this concept. It's called a public-private partnership. And what that means is that instead of, the city hiring consultants and then monitoring the consultants and having my staff do stuff, and we basically have said, okay, this is the scope of the project. This is how much we think it'll cost to get it done. We're going to bid this whole project out as one project to a group that will take the responsibility of giving us a price, giving us a timeline, and then accepting the penalties if they don't agree to that. So in essence, what we've done is we've privatized this project, and then we're bringing in basically an army to come in and do it. And then if they don't do it in time, they have to pay us money for it. So they're extremely motivated to do this. And this is the first, to our knowledge, and Mitch has done a ton of these things, this is my first. To our knowledge, this is the first time anywhere that it's a public-private partnership between government, academics, and the private sector. So this is an out of the parker. This is a real resume builder. So that's a real strong motivator.
What company are you working with?
It's a group called Plenary. And Plenary's got a bunch of subs within it, like Structure Point and some different groups like that. He'll be taking on some of the responsibility for instance, public art or for trails, or some might be better at roadways, some might be better at drainage, some might do facilities constructions, that sort of thing. Questions? Yes, sir.
What are your plans for detouring State Street traffic? How were those?
We have, basically what we're going to do is we're going to have everybody go like this. But on our website, just click on the State Street icon, and it should have an up-to-date sort of explanation of how to get around. I mean, when you're rolling up your major arterial, it's not going to be convenient at all. There's going to be a lot of folks that are going to get very frustrated. We will try to keep lanes open as best as we can. But we're going through this really methodical process of not just having information on the web, on our website, and then having blasts out through a system that we have within our police department. But we're also trying to make sure that every day we're able to have updates. Signage, we have a bunch of signboards that we can basically put information in to let people know, okay, this road isn't going to open when we thought it would, so go this round. We are taking advantage of one-way roads and turning them two-way. I mean, anything that we can do to help ease the pain, we're going to do. We're advocating people use Waze, because that's, real-time traffic guidance, because it will change that quickly. And we had a little experience with that. We tore up the intersection of 231 and State to put our combined sewer overflow tank in there. And we learned a lot from that experience, and we're going to apply some of those lessons to this. But no matter what, it is going to be a problem. My wife tells me I'm going to be the most hated man in West Lafayette until this is over. So please don't shoot. Other questions? Yes?
Are you doing anything to involve students at Purdue in the planning of it? And if so,
Yes, we are. We have, within our development department, we've got a group, a guy, Bryce, I should know his last name, but I can't remember right now. But he goes, and they're called sensing sessions. And we go out and we meet with student groups, because we're right here with this, and sometimes we don't see some of the things, some of the ways that it impacts others. The odd thing is, and this is just sort of a point, is that students don't generally, you're much more accepting than some of our other populations that we serve. Somebody that is in their late 50s, early 60s that live on the north end of town that goes to XXX every Saturday morning for a burger and beans, and they can't get there that Saturday morning, they will light my phone up. And a student just think, okay, and they'll walk around, hop over a ditch, and get to where they need to go. So. Yes, sir.
What are your sort of primary concerns with this project?
Everything. I mean, some of these roads haven't been touched in 100 years. Some of these businesses are built on slabs. Some of these sidewalks have so many things underneath them, it's like a spider web or a ball of spaghetti. What we're concerned about is getting tangled up with something that's really going to put a delay on this project. The other thing is the human component. We learned, and again, like I said, I was in college for a long time as well. We learned that with the State Street project, that sometimes when you make something an attractive hazard or an attractive nuisance, it has that exact effect. On Thursday nights, when everybody's walking down the hill with their pink mugs in their hands, even though we've got signs that say don't be doing that, we have orange fencing saying don't go in here, every time somebody jumps in the hole. And when you're walking down, you might look at the hole, but when you've been there for 6 hours and you're walking back, you think you can swim through the hole. And so those are the biggest challenges that we have. The other thing is making sure our business community is well patronized. You know, a lot of times there's so much out there. I mean, you can order almost anything you want over your phone now, but there's so much out there that if somebody figures out something else to do, instead of saying going to Vaughn's, you know, they go online and buy books. Well, that's going to hurt John Vaughn. We don't want that to happen. So that's the other big challenge, making sure people know that we're open for business and we'll do whatever we can to get folks there. Anything else? Yes, sir.
What are the key areas which you can find for the Purdue students to involve in this project? Like, do you have some existing already areas figured out so that you want to involve the student community in this?
I think the most important thing is communications, and I know that sounds kind of mundane. The engineering of the project is solid. The design plans have been pretty much gone through the approval process. The understanding on the part of the business community is pretty solid, but where we stand, where we lack is just we don't, you know, I can get up and talk to 40 of you now, but that's only 40 people. We don't have the connectivity with each other like you guys do. You know, I don't have the access to you folks to let everybody know, hey, you know, if you were curious about what's down there, go look now. Or the other side, hey, I know you always walk to the cactus. Be careful when you go down there because there's going to be holes in there that will eat you up. You know, that kind of stuff. And then when we do projects like this, we are putting ourselves at risk, we as a city. I mean, we're liable for everything. I've had my name in a lot of lawsuits just because I'm mayor. And actually, when I was chief of police, I had him on a lot of lawsuits too. But just to make sure that people act responsibly. And just remember, this is a project that has a beginning date and an end date. And when it's over, hang on. It's going to be really cool. Anybody else? Okay. We good? All right. There you go. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Now we can ask all our questions.
Yeah.
All our grown-up questions.
Yeah, you can ask her
Where
another
are the
question.
grown-ups going to live?
Huh?
So where are the adults going to live?
Top floors.
Yeah.
They can afford them, yeah. Yeah, it could be